Lieutenant Amanda Cross stepped off the transport shuttle and felt the weight of 100 eyes on her back. The Galactic Defense Academy stretched before her like a small city made of metal and glass. Ships from a dozen different worlds hung in the sky above. She had dreamed of this moment for 2 years, but now that she was here, the reality felt heavier than the rifle case strapped across her shoulder. The processing center buzzed with activity. Aliens of every shape and size moved through the corridors with confidence. Most of them had trained their whole lives for this opportunity. Amanda was one of only 3 humans accepted this year. Earth was still new to the galactic community, and most species saw humans as the latest curious addition to the coalition rather than serious. Military material dot, she found her assigned squad room and pushed open the door. 4 beings looked up at her arrival. 2 were human. The other 2 were decidedly not. "You must be Cross," said one of the humans, a tall man with sharp features and perfectly pressed uniform. "Ryan Pierce. This is Greg Holloway." He gestured to the other human, a stocky man with a friendly face but calculating eyes. The alien on the left uncrossed 4 arms and stood. He towered over everyone in the room, his scaled skin catching the light in shades of deep green and bronze. "Rex of the Canthri Empire," he said. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "I hope you prove more capable than the statistics suggest." "Zeleth," said the 4th member. She was unlike anything Amanda had seen before. Her body appeared to be made of living crystal, refracting light into rainbow patterns across the walls. "Sultani Cluster, welcome." Amanda nodded to each of them and set her rifle case on the empty bunk. The metallic click as she opened the latches seemed loud in the sudden silence. She pulled out her weapon carefully, checking it over with practiced hands. Ryan leaned closer. "Is that a joke?" "Excuse me? Your rifle? That's what you're bringing to the most advanced military academy in known space?" Ryan held up his own weapon, a sleek plasma rifle that hummed with barely contained energy. "We're supposed to be representing humanity here." Amanda continued her inspection, running her fingers along the custom scope. "This represents me just fine." Rex stood and crossed to her bunk. All 4 arms gestured at her rifle with something between amusement and disbelief. "That is a ballistic weapon. You use chemical propulsion to throw metal slugs. My ancestors abandoned such primitive tools 3,000 years ago." "Good for them," Amanda said. Greg tried to soften the moment. What Amanda means is that she probably has her reasons. "Right, Amanda? You've got some kind of special ammunition or something." "Standard rounds. I make some modifications, but nothing fancy." She lifted the rifle and sighted down its length, making minute adjustments to the scope. "It does what I need it to do." Zeleth's crystalline form shifted, her internal structure rearranging to focus different visual spectrums on the weapon. The scope appears custom, multiple lens configurations, but the underlying technology is centuries behind current standard. "It works," Amanda said simply. The conversation died there. Her squad mates exchanged looks that spoke volumes. The humans seemed embarrassed. The aliens seemed vindicated in whatever low expectations they had carried for. Earth's representatives. The door opened again, and a new figure entered. He was Dresnari, reptilian, but walking upright, with eyes that missed nothing. 3 scars crossed his face in parallel lines. "I am Chief Instructor Kale. You 5 are Squad 7. Gather your equipment and report to Training Bay 12 in 1 hour." He scanned them each in turn. When his gaze landed on Amanda and her rifle, he paused. The moment stretched. Then he nodded once and left without another word. "Wow, that was terrifying," Greg muttered. "He is a legend," Rex said. 500 combat missions, decorated by 7 different planetary governments. They say he can predict enemy movements before they happen. "Great," Ryan said. "And we're showing up with museum pieces." He glared at Amanda. "Try not to embarrass us too badly, all right?" Amanda didn't respond. She finished checking her weapon and began laying out the rest of her gear. Everything was clean, functional, and decidedly low-tech compared to what her squad mates carried. She had night vision that didn't integrate with neural implants, a rangefinder that required manual input, a wind gauge that used actual physical measurement rather than atmospheric sensors. Training Bay 12 turned out to be an enormous hangar that opened onto a simulated landscape. Holographic technology created terrain that stretched to the horizon, complete with weather patterns and variable lighting. A dozen other squads were already assembled when Squad 7 arrived. Instructor Kale stood on a raised platform where everyone could see him. "Today you begin your first evaluation. What you are about to face is designed to test everything you think you know about reconnaissance and combat identification. This simulation contains one city, 50 square miles of urban terrain. Hidden within are 200 hostile targets. Your mission is to identify and mark these targets without being detected. You have 12 hours. He gestured, and the holographic city materialized around them. Buildings rose from the ground. Streets filled with thousands of civilian holograms going about daily life. The detail was staggering. Amanda could see individual faces, hear conversations, smell cooking food from simulated restaurants. "Standard rules apply," Kale continued. "Incorrect civilian identification results in point deductions. Being detected by hostile forces removes your team from the exercise. Advanced sensor packages are permitted. Drone deployment is permitted. Lethal force is not permitted, as this is identification training only. Questions?" Rex raised one of his 4 hands. "Are there limitations on operational range?" "Use the entire city as you see fit. Teams may split up or remain together. Choose your tactics." Kale's eyes swept across the assembled recruits. "You may believe your technology gives you advantage. Some of you may be right. Others will learn that the best tools mean nothing without the skill to use them properly. Begin." Squads scattered into the simulation. Amanda watched her teammates huddled together, already planning their approach. Ryan pulled up a holographic map and started marking high-value positions. Greg activated a micro-drone from his kit. Rex's forearms moved in a blur, checking weapons and sensors. "What's your plan, Cross?" Ryan asked without looking at her. "I'm going to find a position and observe. That's it? You're not even going to use drones or thermal scanning?" "No." Ryan exchanged a look with the others. "Fine. Greg and I will work the eastern sector. Rex, you take north with your speed. Zelith, your visual range gives you advantage in the south. Amanda can," he waved vaguely, "do whatever she's planning." "You are separating?" Rex asked. "Human military doctrine emphasizes unit cohesion. Amanda's going to do her own thing anyway," Ryan said. "No point in all of us suffering when she realizes that Rifle can't compete here." Amanda slung her weapon across her back and started walking toward the outskirts of the simulated city. She didn't argue. Words wouldn't change their minds. Only results would matter. She found what she was looking for 40 minutes later. A damaged building on the edge of the urban zone, 7 miles from the primary target area. The structure had partially collapsed, creating unexpected sightlines through the debris. She climbed to the 3rd floor and set up her position with careful precision. The rifle went on a stable rest she built from rubble. Her scope aligned with a gap in the broken wall. Wind data came from her manual gauge. Distance measurements from her rangefinder. She pulled out a worn notebook and began sketching a rough map of what she could see down. Then Amanda Cross did what humans had done for millions of years on the African plains. In the forest of North America, across the steppes of Asia. She watched. She waited. and she began to see patterns that no computer had been programmed to recognize. In the command center high above the simulation, Instructor Kale pulled up her camera feed and smiled. The simulated city hummed with artificial life. Thousands of holographic civilians walked the streets, entered buildings, conducted business that looked completely real. Somewhere among them, 200 hostile targets hid in plain sight. Finding them would require more than just good eyes and better technology. Ryan Pierce crouched on a rooftop 3 miles into the eastern sector. His plasma rifle rested against his shoulder, but it was the sensor package in his other hand that mattered right now. The device swept the area below, analyzing heat signatures, movement patterns, and electromagnetic emissions. Every few minutes, it beeped softly, highlighting a potential target. He marked his 5th contact of the hour and felt satisfied. The system worked exactly as advertised. Point the sensors, let the computer do the analysis, mark the targets. Simple and effective. He glanced at his squad display and saw that Greg had marked 3 targets. Rex had marked 7, which didn't surprise anyone. The Canthery warrior moved through the simulation like liquid death, his forearms allowing him to operate multiple systems simultaneously while maintaining combat speed. Zealoth count stood at 6. Her crystalline biology let her see in spectrums that humans and most other species couldn't access. She could spot energy weapons through walls and identify certain types of body armor by their radiation signature. Ryan switched his display to show Amanda's position. The icon sat motionless in a building on the far edge of the operational area. Her target count read 0. He shook his head. At least she was out of the way, where her inevitable failure wouldn't drag down the rest of the squad's performance. His sensor package beeped again. Ryan marked the target without hesitation. The word incorrect flashed across his display in red letters. Civilian misidentification. -5 points. Ryan cursed under his breath. He rescanned the area, trying to figure out what he had missed. The target had shown all the right signs according to his equipment. But the system disagreed. Across the city, Greg Holloway was having similar problems. His micro-drone provided excellent aerial coverage, and its onboard computer had flagged 17 potential targets in the past hour. Greg had marked 9 of them. 3 had been confirmed correct. 6 had been flagged as incorrect civilian identification. "This is harder than it looked," he muttered into his cum. "Agreed," Rex replied. "My success rate is approximately 40%. The hostile targets are using sophisticated concealment techniques." Zealoth's voice joined the channel. "I am experiencing similar difficulties. My visual spectrum advantages appear less effective than anticipated." Ryan checked the overall squad standings. Squad 7 was in 8th place out of 12 squads. Not terrible, but not impressive either. And they were accumulating penalty points from incorrect identifications faster than they were gaining credit for correct ones. "Let's slow down," he said. "Focus on quality over quantity. Double-check each target before marking." The others agreed. Ryan settled into a more careful rhythm, taking extra time to analyze each potential contact. It helped, but only slightly. The simulation's hostile targets were simply too good at blending in her distant position. Amanda had not moved in over an hour. She sat perfectly still, her eye pressed to her scope, watching the streets 7 miles away with unwavering focus. Her notebook lay open beside her, filled with sketches and notes that would make no sense to anyone else. She watched a group of civilians cross an intersection. 12 people, seemingly random, moving in different directions. She noted the way one man's hand brushed his jacket. Nothing unusual. He did it again 30 seconds later. Still nothing unusual. But when he did it a third time with the exact same motion, Amanda's eyes narrowed. Humans were not naturally consistent in unconscious movements. When someone touched their face or adjusted their clothes, it varied each time. Slight differences in speed, angle, pressure. But trained operatives often developed repeated patterns from their training. They learned to move efficiently, and those efficient movements became automatic. She marked the man in her notebook. Not confirmed, but suspicious. She would watch him longer. A woman entered a shop across the street. Normal. But she glanced left before entering. 3 minutes later, another person entered the same shop. They also glanced left first. Coincidence or communication? Amanda wrote it down. The scope moved with practiced smoothness. She wasn't hunting for technology or weapons. She was hunting for behavior. For the tiny inconsistencies that marked someone pretending to be normal rather than actually being normal. A street vendor sold food from a cart. She watched him for 20 minutes. His sales pattern was wrong. He approached some customers but avoided others, and the ones he avoided all shared similar builds and postures. Almost like he knew which ones were dangerous and which were safe. Amanda made more notes. The pattern was emerging, but she needed more data. Patience was the key. Her grandfather had taught her that during their hunting trips in Montana, "The deer will show you where it's going," he used to say. You just have to watch long enough to see the truth behind the movement. In the command center, Instructor Kale stood before a wall of monitors showing feeds from every recruit in the exercise. Most screens showed constant movement. Recruits running between positions, deploying drones, scanning with sensors. The activity looked impressive, but the results told a different story. Incorrect identifications were rampant. His aide, a young Sultani named Pyrex, gestured to the statistics. "Sir, the average accuracy rate is 38%. That's lower than last year's class. They're relying too heavily on technology," Kale said. The simulation was designed to defeat sensor-based identification. "I want to see who adapts." Pyrex highlighted several feeds. Squads 2 and 5 are performing above average. They're using combination techniques, cross-referencing multiple sensor types. A better, but still fundamentally the same approach. Kale pulled up Amanda's feed. "What about this one?" Pyrex studied the image. "Human. Squad 7. She has maintained position for 2 hours and 14 minutes. 0 targets marked. 0 movement. Sir, should we check if her system is malfunctioning?" "No malfunction," Kale said. "She's working. Watch." They observed in silence. Amanda's scope tracked across a plaza, moving with glacial slowness. She wasn't searching frantically like the others. She was reading the environment like a book, taking in every detail and assembling them into a coherent picture. "What is she doing?" Pyrex asked. "Something we stopped teaching 50 years ago," Kale said. Before sensors and computers, reconnaissance required natural observation skills. You learned to see what didn't belong. She's using human pattern recognition. "But sir, computers process patterns faster than organic brains." "Computers process patterns they've been programmed to recognize. Humans can see patterns they've never encountered before. It's slower, but sometimes it's more accurate." Hour 3 of the exercise brought frustration to most squads. The easy targets were gone, found and marked in the first 90 minutes. What remained were the truly difficult ones. The hostiles who had embedded themselves so perfectly into the civilian population that even advanced sensors couldn't distinguish them. Ryan's marked count had reached 11, but half of those had been incorrect. His net score was actually negative when penalties were factored in. Greg wasn't doing much better. Rex's speed gave him more opportunities, but his accuracy remained around 40%. Zeleth had stopped marking targets entirely, afraid that more penalties would damage their squad ranking further. "This is ridiculous," Ryan said over the comm. "The targets are using technology we can't detect." Or we are looking for the wrong indicators, Rex suggested. Greg pulled up the squad standings. We're in 10th place now. 2 squads dropped out completely after being detected by hostiles. At least we're still in the game. Ryan checked Amanda's status again. Still 0 marks. Still in the same position. Cross, you still alive out there? Yes, came the simple reply. You planning to actually contribute at some point? Yes. Ryan waited for more explanation. None came. He switched off the comm in annoyance. Amanda had filled 12 pages in her notebook. The patterns were clear now. She could see the invisible web that connected the hostile operatives. They communicated through micro-gestures. A hand signal that looked like scratching. A walking pattern that carried meaning in its timing. They avoided certain areas and congregated in others, but never obviously. She had tracked 17 suspects through careful observation. Now she needed to confirm them before marking. A false identification would undermine everything. Her scope settled on the man she had noticed first, the one with the repetitive jacket touch. She watched him meet another person. They stood together for 90 seconds. A normal conversation to anyone watching. But Amanda saw the exchange of a small object, passed so smoothly that it looked like accidental contact. Confirmation. She marked her first target. The system pinned. High-value target. Correct identification. Amanda's scope was already moving. She marked the person who received the object. Another ping. High-value target. Correct identification. Her rifle tracked across the plaza to the street vendor who had shown selective approach patterns. Mark. Command-level target. Correct identification. One by one, Amanda marked the targets she had spent hours identifying. The instructor's words hung in the air like a declaration. Don't move. She sees everything. Ryan Pierce froze on his rooftop, suddenly very aware of his position. He checked his tactical display and watched as more marks appeared from Amanda's location. The hostile forces were spreading out, searching for her, as she was identifying every single one of them. Who was she talking to? Greg asked over the comm. Us or them? Both, Rex said. His forearms had gone still for the first time since the exercise began. Instructor Kale just broadcast on all channels. The hostile simulation forces heard it too. Zealoth's voice carried a note of confusion. Why would he warn them? Because it doesn't matter, Ryan realized. He pulled up Amanda's camera feed and watched her scope track targets with smooth precision. She already knows where they are. The warning won't change anything. In her new position, Amanda continued her work. The hostile forces had reacted exactly as she predicted. When an organization realizes it's been compromised, it follows predictable patterns. Panic creates mistakes. Rushed movements reveal what careful planning conceals. The search teams looking for her were giving away more information with every second that passed. She marked a 3-person team moving through an alley. All confirmed high value. Her scope swung left. 2 more operatives on a rooftop trying to get elevation for better sightlines. Marked and confirmed. A vehicle with 4 occupants trying to look like civilian transport, but moving with military precision. Marked. Confirmed. Her total count reached 47. Every single identification correct dot in the command center. Other instructors had gathered around Amanda's feed. The demonstration was unprecedented. A first-day recruit with primitive equipment was outperforming the entire class combined. Our accuracy is perfect, Pyrex said, still struggling to believe the data. Sir, she's identifying targets that require level 4 clearance to access in the simulation files. How does she know these are command elements? Kale gestured to the screen. Watch how they move. See the way that group maintains exactly 40 meters separation? That's command spacing. They stay far enough apart that a single attack can't eliminate them all, but close enough to maintain visual contact. And there, that individual. See how the others defer to him? I don't see anyone deferring, Pyrex said. Exactly. They're trying not to show it. But watch when they change direction. He moved first, always. The others follow half a second later. It's subtle, but it's there. Another instructor, a cantori named Voss, studied the feed intently. This is human evolutionary biology. This pattern recognition ability? Partially, Kale said. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They tracked prey across vast distances by reading tiny signs. Broken grass, disturbed dirt, the way birds scatter. Over millions of years, this created exceptional pattern recognition in their brains. But this, he gestured to Amanda's perfect track record. This is training combined with natural ability. She's refined an instinct into a weapon. Squad 3 reported contact with hostile forces. They had been detected while trying to close distance on a target. The simulation removed them from the exercise. Squad 6 followed 10 minutes later, caught by a counter-sniper element they never saw coming. Ryan watched his squad's ranking improve as other teams failed. They had climbed to 6th place without doing anything except staying undetected. Amanda's contributions were carrying them. We should support her, Rex said suddenly. She has provided coordinates for multiple high-value targets in our sectors. We can exploit her intelligence. Agreed, Greg said. I'm seeing 3 marked targets within drone range. Moving to confirm and exploit. They work together now with new purpose. Amanda identified targets. Her squad mates maneuvered into positions to verify them, using her intelligence to avoid hostile patrols and counter-reconnaissance elements. It was a different kind of teamwork than they had planned, but it was effective. Zeleth moved through the southern sector with renewed confidence. Amanda had marked a command post 2 blocks from her position. Zeleth approached carefully and confirmed everything. 3 vehicles, 9 personnel, communication equipment. All exactly where Amanda said they would be. How does she see this from 7 miles away? Zeleth asked over the squad channel. I don't think we want to know, Ryan admitted. It's making me uncomfortable that she could probably see us the same way. Amanda heard the chatter but didn't respond. She was focused on a new development. The hostile forces had stopped searching randomly. They were using mathematics now, calculating probable observation positions based on the marks that had been made. Someone on their side was smart. They had drawn circles around her identified targets and found the overlapping zones where an observer would need to be positioned to see all of them. There were 7 possible positions. Amanda was in one of them. She watched teams deploy to 6 of the 7 locations. They had guessed wrong on which one she occupied, but they were being thorough. It wouldn't be long before they checked her building. She could relocate again. But that would mean losing this position, which had perfect sight lines to 3 of the remaining high-value target zones. Moving would reduce her effectiveness. Amanda made her decision. She stayed. The hostile search team entered her building 4 minutes later. 8 operatives, well armed, moving with professional efficiency. They cleared the ground floor and started working their way up. She marked all 8 of them in her tactical display. Confirmed hostile combatants. Then she did something that surprised everyone watching. She fired her rifle. The ballistic round hit a metal support beam 40 feet behind the search team. The sound was enormous in the enclosed space. The team spun, weapons ready, focusing on the source of the noise. But Amanda's bullet had been calculated. It struck at an angle that made the acoustic signature point to a location 3 rooms away from where she actually was. The team moved toward the false position. Amanda used the time to relocate within the building, finding a new spot 2 floors down. She set up again and continued marking targets. The search team realized they had been deceived 30 seconds later. By then, Amanda had identified 12 more hostiles in the surrounding area and marked them all. "She's using her primitive weapon as a tactical advantage," Voss said in the command center. "The ballistic round creates acoustic signatures that advanced energy weapons don't. She's manipulating the sound to create false positions." Kale nodded. "Every tool has advantages if you know how to use them." She chose that rifle for reasons beyond sentiment. Amanda fired again. This time, the round struck a glass window on the opposite side of the building. The shattering sound drew attention away from her actual position. She marked 3 more targets who responded to the noise, identifying themselves by their tactical movement. The hostile forces were growing frustrated. Every attempt to locate her resulted in more of their own people being identified. They were making the problem worse by trying to solve it. Ryan watched from his position and felt something he hadn't expected. Respect. Amanda wasn't just good at observation. She was turning it into a combat multiplier. Every hostile operative who tried to find her became a target. Every response to her actions gave her more information. "She's not defending," he said quietly. "She's attacking, using observation as a weapon." Rex had reached the same conclusion. In Canthery military philosophy, we have a saying: "The perfect warrior defeats the enemy without fighting." She's demonstrating this principle. Every mark she makes is a victory. The enemy cannot reach her, cannot hide from her, cannot operate effectively while she watches. The exercise reached hour 6. Most remaining squads had settled into defensive positions, trying to accumulate marks without taking too many penalties or being detected. Squad 7 had climbed to 2nd place. Amanda's count stood at 93 confirmed hostile identifications with 0 errors. The top squad, Squad 2, had 107 marks. But they had 41 incorrect civilian identifications, giving them heavy penalty points. When the math was calculated, Squad 7's perfect accuracy put them ahead on actual score dot. Then the simulation changed again. Kale activated the final phase early. He had planned to wait until hour 10, but Amanda's performance had compressed the learning timeline. New alerts appeared on every display. "Time-sensitive scenario now active," the simulation announced. "Hidden explosive device located somewhere in the city. Detonation in 30 minutes. Identify location to prevent mass casualty event." Every squad scrambled. This was the ultimate test. Sensors swept every building. Drones deployed en masse. The city became chaos as teams rushed to find the bomb. Amanda set down her rifle and pulled out her notebook. She flipped back through 12 pages of observations, looking for the pattern within the pattern. The hostile forces had been protecting something. All their movements, all their positioning, had been oriented around specific locations. She had noted it hours ago, but hadn't understood the significance. Now, she did not. She pulled up a blank map on her tactical display and began marking locations. Not targets. Positions where she had never seen hostile forces go. Gaps in their patrol patterns. Areas they avoided despite being tactically valuable. The pattern emerged. 17 locations the hostiles had consistently avoided. She cross-referenced them against her notes about command. The simulation dissolved around them like morning fog. Buildings faded. Streets disappeared. The thousands of holographic civilians blinked out of existence. Squad 7 stood alone in the empty training bay, the artificial sun overhead dimming to normal light levels. Amanda disassembled her rifle with steady hands. Around her, recruits from other squads whispered and stared. She ignored them. The weapon needed to be cleaned and stored properly. Everything else could wait. Rex approached first. His forearms hung loose at his sides in a gesture that Amanda had learned meant respect among Canthery warriors. "May I examine your weapon?" She looked up at him. The same alien who had mocked her choice 6 hours ago now stood before her with genuine curiosity. She handed him the rifle without comment. Rex turned it over carefully, studying each component. This scope has 7 different lens configurations. I see manual adjustment rings. No electronic targeting assistance. Correct, Amanda said. The barrel rifling is unusual. Tighter than standard specifications. I need precision at extreme range. The tighter twist stabilizes the round better. One of Rex's hands traced the trigger mechanism. This has been modified. The pull weight is exactly calibrated. 3 pounds, 2 ounces. Any heavier, and I can't maintain steady pressure. Any lighter, and I risk accidental discharge. He handed the rifle back with something that might have been a bow. I apologize for my earlier words. I underestimated what I did not understand. Amanda accepted the rifle and the apology with a simple nod. We all make assumptions. The key is learning from them. Greg and Ryan approached together, looking uncomfortable. Greg spoke first. That was incredible out there. The way you found that bomb. It wasn't incredible, Amanda interrupted. It was just observation. Anyone could have done it with enough patience. No, Ryan said firmly. Anyone couldn't have. I've been through advanced reconnaissance training. Top marks in my class. I had better equipment than you and 6 hours of the same information. I never saw what you saw. Amanda considered this. You were looking for technology. Energy signatures, heat blooms, electromagnetic emissions. The hostile forces were designed to hide from those things. So I looked for behavior instead. But how did you know about the basement layout? The specific corner? Greg asked. You were 12 miles away. I watched the building for 40 minutes during the second hour. People entered carrying packages. They left without them. But the shop's inventory never changed visibly. That meant storage somewhere not visible from the street. Most buildings in that architectural style have basements. The northwest corner showed structural reinforcement in the foundation that the other corners didn't have. Something heavy was stored there. Ryan shook his head. You noticed foundation reinforcement from 12 miles away? The building settled slightly different on that side. Maybe a quarter-inch lower. It changed the shadow line where the wall met the ground. The 3 humans stared at her. Greg finally laughed, a sound mixed with disbelief and amazement. You're not human. You can't be. No one sees that level of detail. Humans have always seen that level of detail, Amanda said quietly. We just forgot how to look. My grandfather taught me to track deer across mountains by reading a bent twig or a patch of disturbed pine needles. This is the same skill applied differently. Zelith joined them, her crystalline form refracting the overhead lights into rainbow patterns. I must understand something. My species sees in 17 different visual spectrums. I can detect radiation, energy fields, and molecular structures invisible to most organic eyes. Yet you, limited to standard visual range, outperformed my capabilities significantly. How is this possible? Amanda looked at the Sultani thoughtfully. You see more than I do. But seeing more doesn't always mean understanding more. I see less, but I process differently. Humans evolved to find patterns in chaos. We see one thing and predict what comes next. We watch how something moves and know what it's thinking. That's not better than what you can do. It's just different. It was certainly effective, Zelith said. I would like to learn this technique if you are willing to teach it. Before Amanda could respond, a voice echoed across the training bay. All recruits, assemble for debriefing. The squads formed ranks facing the raised platform where Instructor Kale stood. His scarred face was unreadable as he surveyed them. The room fell silent. Today you completed your first evaluation, Kale began. For most of you, the results were adequate. You demonstrated competence with your equipment and followed standard tactical procedures. You will improve with time and practice." He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the assembled recruits. "Some of you failed, not because you lacked skill or courage, but because you relied entirely on what you were given instead of thinking about what you needed. Technology is a tool. Used properly, it enhances your capabilities. Used as a replacement for thought, it makes you weak." Several recruits shifted uncomfortably. Squad 3 had been eliminated early for exactly that reason, trusting their sensors over their judgment. One recruit today demonstrated something I have not seen in my 20 years as an instructor, Kale continued. She achieved perfect performance on an exercise designed to be impossibly difficult. She did this without advanced sensors, without drones, without any of the advantages most of you considered essential. Every eye in the room turned to Amanda. She stood at attention, face neutral, giving nothing away. Lieutenant Cross stepped forward. Amanda moved to the front of the formation. Kale descended from the platform to stand before her. "Explain to your fellow recruits how you accomplished what you did today." Amanda considered the question. The room waited in silence. "I watched people," she said simply, "not to see what they carried or what weapons they held. I watched how they moved, how they interacted, where they went and where they didn't go. Humans are good at reading behavior because we had to be. For millions of years, understanding intention meant survival. I just used what evolution gave me. And the weapon?" Kale gestured to her rifle. "Why ballistic technology when energy weapons offer superior firepower? This rifle does what I need it to do. The scope extends my natural vision instead of replacing it. The ballistic rounds create acoustic signatures I can use tactically. The manual controls give me complete understanding of every variable affecting my shot. It's not about superior firepower. It's about perfect compatibility between tool and user." Kale nodded slowly. "Lieutenant Rex, what did you learn today?" Rex stepped forward. "I learned that I judged capability by appearance instead of result. I assumed human limitations without understanding human advantages. It was a failure of wisdom. Lieutenant Ryan Pierce?" Ryan came forward, meeting Amanda's eyes. "I learned that the newest technology isn't always the best technology, and that I was so focused on my equipment that I forgot to think about my environment. I was fighting the exercise instead of understanding it." "Good," Kale said. "These lessons matter more than your scores. The galaxy has thousands of warriors who can fight. It has far fewer who can think." He turned to address the entire assembly. "You came here because you were the best candidates from your worlds. But being the best of what you were doesn't mean you're ready for what you need to become." He gestured to Amanda. "This human comes from a planet the rest of the galaxy considers primitive. Earth has no energy shields, no faster than light travel, no gravity manipulation. By every measure we use, humanity should be irrelevant to galactic affairs." Kale's voice grew harder. "But humans survived on a death world. Their planet tried to kill them with predators, disease, weather, and 1,000 other threats. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no size or strength advantage. So they learned to think, to plan, to see patterns and exploit them. They became the most dangerous persistence hunters their world had ever seen." He looked at Amanda with something that might have been respect. "This is what Earth brings to the Coalition. Not advanced technology, not superior numbers. They bring the ability to adapt, to survive, to turn disadvantage into advantage. And most importantly, they bring the willingness to do things differently instead of following established patterns." The instructor's words settled over the assembly like a weight. Several alien recruits looked at the human members of the class with new eyes. "You are dismissed," Kale said. "Training resumes at 0600 tomorrow." Those who learn today will perform better. Those who did not will continue to struggle until they do. The formation broke. Recruits dispersed toward their quarters. Amanda turned to leave, but Cale's voice stopped her. "Lieutenant Cross, a moment." She approached the platform where he stood. Up close, the scars on his face looked like they told stories. Battle stories. Survival stories. "You've been trained before," Cale said. It wasn't a question. "My grandfather. He was a tracker and hunter. Taught me from age 5 until I enlisted. And the military? I was a scout sniper for 3 years before the Coalition opened recruitment to humans." Cale nodded. "I read your file. 97 confirmed long-range identifications in combat zones. 0 errors. Your commanders recommended you specifically for this program." "I didn't know that," Amanda admitted. "They recognized what I saw today. You don't just observe. You understand what you see. That's rare. Most snipers are shooters who happen to be patient." The morning sun filtered through the windows of Training Room 7, casting long shadows across the floor. Amanda arrived 15 minutes early and found her entire squad already waiting. Vrex stood near the window, all 4 arms crossed in patient attention. Zealot's crystalline form caught the light, creating dancing rainbows on the walls. Ryan and Greg sat on equipment crates, looking nervous and eager at the same time. "You're early," Amanda said. "We want to learn," Ryan replied. "Instructor Cale told us you're authorized to teach observation techniques. We talked last night and decided we were idiots yesterday. We'd like to stop being idiots if possible." Amanda set down her rifle case and studied them. "Learning this isn't fast. It took me years to get decent at it. We have 12 weeks of training here. Then we'll learn what we can in 12 weeks, Rex said. Some knowledge is better than no knowledge. She nodded slowly. All right. First rule. Put away all your sensors and computer aids. Greg's hand went protectively to his tactical display. All of them? How will we? That's the point, Amanda interrupted. You rely on equipment to tell you what to see. You need to learn to see it yourself first. Then, technology enhances what you already know instead of replacing what you should know. Reluctantly, they powered down their advanced equipment. The room became quieter without the constant hum of active sensors. Second rule, Amanda continued. Observation isn't about looking hard. It's about looking smart. You're not trying to see everything. You're trying to see what matters. What doesn't belong. What's trying to hide. She moved to the window and gestured outside. The academy grounds stretched before them, filled with recruits moving between buildings, instructors conducting drills, and maintenance personnel going about their duties. Tell me what you see, she said. Ryan stepped forward. I see approximately 200 individuals engaged in various activities. Mixed species composition. Standard academy operations. That's a summary, Amanda said. Anyone could say that. I asked what you see. Look again. Don't categorize. Observe. Ryan looked again, frustrated. I don't know what you want me to say. Tell me about one person. Pick someone and actually watch them. Ryan focused on a Canthery recruit crossing the main courtyard. He's walking toward the barracks. Normal pace. Nothing unusual. Is he right-handed or left-handed? I don't know. Watch his arms. How he carries his equipment bag. Which shoulder bears the weight. The way he moves tells you which side he favors. Ryan watched more carefully. Left shoulder carries the bag. His right arm swings more freely. Right-handed. Probably. What else? He favors his left leg slightly when he walks. Maybe an old injury. Good. You're seeing now instead of just looking. What does that injury tell you? Ryan thought about it. He's trained through pain. He's committed. He doesn't let discomfort stop him. Amanda smiled. Now you're reading behavior. That's the difference. Everyone can see someone limping. Not everyone asks what it means about who they are. Zeleth approached the window, her internal structure shifting to focus different visual spectrums. I am accustomed to seeing energy patterns and radiation signatures. This seems indirect by comparison. It is indirect, Amanda agreed. But direct observation can be countered. If someone knows you're scanning for heat signatures, they can mask their heat. If they know you're detecting their weapons, they can shield their weapons. But behavior is harder to fake. People can control what they do, but controlling how they do it requires constant awareness. Eventually, everyone relaxes. That's when the truth shows. She turned from the window and picked up her rifle. This scope has 7 lens configurations. Not because I need to see in different spectrums, but because different situations need different focus. Sometimes I need wide field of view to track movement patterns. Sometimes I need extreme magnification to see micro details. The tool adapts to what I need to see. Rex examined the scope when she offered it. Human eyes cannot naturally see the distances you were observing from yesterday. How do you maintain accuracy at such extreme range? Practice and math, Amanda said. I know my weapon. I know how wind affects the round at different ranges. I know how temperature changes trajectory. I know how light bends through the scope at different times of day. All of that becomes automatic after enough repetition. But the behavioral observation, Zilith pressed. How do you know what patterns matter? Amanda was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. My grandfather used to take me hunting in the mountains of Montana. We'd track deer for days sometimes. He taught me that every living thing leaves a trail, not just footprints. Everything they do changes the environment in small ways. Deer bed down in grass and leave impressions. They rub against trees. They follow the same paths because those paths are easiest. She continued, her voice taking on a teaching rhythm. Humans do the same thing. We're creatures of habit. We take efficient paths. We touch our faces when we're nervous. We shift weight when we're uncomfortable. Trained operatives learn to control obvious tells, but they can't control everything. There's always something that slips through. Like the jacket touch you mentioned in your debrief, Greg said. The target who kept touching his jacket the same way. Exactly. That was a trained response. Maybe checking a concealed weapon. Maybe a communication signal. But the point is, he did it the exact same way every time. Humans aren't naturally that consistent in unconscious movements. When you see perfect repetition and supposedly natural behavior, you're seeing training or deception. Ryan pulled out his notebook. Can you give us more examples? Things to watch for? Over the next hour, Amanda walked them through dozens of observation points. Eye contact patterns. Walking rhythms. How people use space. The difference between someone comfortable in an environment and someone pretending to be comfortable. How groups communicated through positioning, even when they weren't speaking. Rex absorbed everything, his 4 hands taking notes in 3 different languages simultaneously. This explains why you ignored the bomb until the final phase. You were assembling a complete picture of the hostile network first. Right. Individual targets don't matter as much as understanding the organization. Once I saw how they were structured, everything else became obvious. They avoided certain areas because those areas were important. They positioned command elements in a specific pattern because that pattern provided security and communication. The bomb had to be at the center of their protective formation. And you calculated that center point mathematically, Zealot said. I reviewed your mark data. The location was geometrically precise. It had to be. They were protecting something. Protection creates patterns. Patterns have centers. Find the center. Find what they're protecting. Greg shook his head in amazement. This is basically detective work applied to combat. All combat is detective work, Amanda said. You're trying to solve the puzzle of what the enemy will do before they do it. Technology gives you data. Observation gives you understanding. Understanding wins fights. The door opened and Instructor Kale entered. How is the lesson progressing? Slowly, Amanda admitted. They're learning, but this takes time. Time you have? Kale said. I've restructured the training schedule. Squad 7 will spend 2 hours every morning on observation techniques before joining regular tactical exercises. I'm also assigning you 3 additional students from other squads who requested this instruction. 3 more? Amanda looked uncertain. Sir, I'm not a trained instructor. No, but you're effective. That matters more than credentials. Kale gestured to the squad. Your performance yesterday created questions across the entire class. Other recruits want to know if they can learn what you do. I want to know the same thing. Can this be taught, or is it unique to you? Amanda considered this carefully. Some people will have more aptitude than others. Pattern recognition varies. But the basics can definitely be taught. Whether someone becomes exceptional depends on how much they practice and how well they learn to trust their observations over their equipment. Then teach what can be taught, Kale said. The Coalition needs operatives who can think independently, who can function when technology fails or when enemies adapt to our standard methods. Your approach provides that alternative capability. He turned to address the whole squad. Starting tomorrow, you will participate in daily exercises designed specifically for observation training. No sensors, no drones. Just your eyes, your mind, and whatever notes you choose to take. Lieutenant Cross will design these exercises with my approval. Ryan raised his hand. Sir, will this replace our standard combat training? No, it will supplement it. You will learn both methods. Traditional tactical procedures and Cross's observation techniques. The combination will make you more versatile than recruits who only learn one approach. After Kale left, the squad sat in thoughtful silence. Finally, Rex spoke. We are being given an opportunity. The question is whether we are capable of using it. I'm not sure I can do this, Greg admitted. Yesterday, I was scanning with sensors, and I still missed things that were supposedly obvious. How am I going to see them without sensors? You'll see them because you'll practice, Amanda said. Nobody is naturally good at this. My grandfather spent 40 years tracking animals before he taught me. I spent 10 years learning from him.